This week in the Southern Discourse kitchen, we're making this scrumptious Strawberry French Toast Casserole. So let's get started. I've got 3 reasons you're going to want to make this overnight French Toast Casserole and not all those others. I'm Stacy and welcome to my kitchen. Now, why would you want to have regular French toast when you can have Southern French toast? So the first way we're going to elevate this is we're going to top it with a brown sugar pecan topping. So the way that most French toast casseroles are finished is they just get a little sprinkle of powdered sugar. But we're going to take it an extra step. And the second way we're going to elevate this dish is we're going to take our fresh strawberries and we're going to top them with a little bit of sugar and let them macerate just for a little bit before we add them to the casserole. And the third way we're going to make this recipe really stand out is we're going to make it in our cast iron skillet. Now you can see how it's made in a 9x13 casserole dish in the recipe post on the website, but here for the video, special presentation in the cast iron skillet. It just makes it look so homey and inviting, something like your grandma would make. So let's get right into these ingredients. They're just a few and they're really simple. You're gonna need some half and half, some large eggs, some French bread, chopped pecans, brown sugar, of course, strawberries. We've got white granulated sugar, cinnamon, ground ginger, some salt, and vanilla extract. The first thing we need to do is get these strawberries in the bowl with the sugar so they can be breaking down. And for this recipe, you can't use frozen strawberries, and the main reason is because they introduce a lot of moisture into the recipe, and that's going to give you some soggy French toast. And even if you could thaw them out and pat them really dry, the texture of a frozen strawberry is just going to be different. So fresh strawberries are going to be the way to go for this. Now, if you can't get fresh strawberries, this recipe is great with a lot of different kind of berries. You can do blackberries, blueberries, raspberries. You can do peaches. You can even do bananas. So we have our strawberries tossed in the sugar, and we're just gonna let them sit there for a minute, and we're gonna slice up our bread. So we're gonna wanna slice our bread into 1-inch slices. Now you can use sandwich bread if you're making French toast in the skillet the same day, but if you're doing an overnight recipe or a recipe that has to sit at all, you're gonna want a bread with a crusty top. This is going to help the bread maintain its structure as it sits overnight in the egg custard. Now we're going to make our egg custard mixture. So we have some half and half there, and that's half whole milk and half cream. And then we have 6 large eggs. A little bit of salt, ground ginger, and ground cinnamon. And we're just gonna whisk it together. Let's not forget the vanilla. Now we're ready to put together our French toast casserole. And I've gotten my cast iron skillet and I have buttered it with about 1 to 2 tablespoons of butter. And I've really coated it well all the way up the sides. I want to make sure that the skillet is really well protected, especially if it's going to sit in the fridge overnight. So now we're ready to put in our bread, and we're just going to stack it in here the best we can. And we'll kind of let the slices of bread lean on one another. We want to have room for our egg and our berries, but we don't want to have a ton of room. I'm going to flip this over so that it's got the cut side out. Now we're ready for our strawberries, and they've been sitting in that sugar, and that sugar's just going to break them down a little bit. They're going to release a little bit of their moisture to have a little bit of syrup. And this is just going to sweeten these berries. You might not need to do this if your berries are in season, when they're at their ripest, their juiciest, their sweetest. But for the rest of the year, this really helps our berries along. We're just going to pour these berries over the top of our bread. So any kind of syrup, we're just going to syrup and all, get those berries in there. And then you're going to have to use your clean hands and just kind of get the berries down in between the slices of the bread. You can leave a lot on top, but some in between too. Now we're ready for our egg mixture. And we're just going to pour this right on top of our bread. We're going to go slow and easy. We want to make sure that every piece of bread gets a little bit of this egg custard on it. So we get way over here on the edges. Last but not least, we've got our pecan and brown sugar topping. And this is going to lend that sweetness to the French toast that we all crave. It's going to make those berries really sing, and that egg custard is going to be nice and rich. This is one of those dishes that just feels like home when it comes out of the oven. All right, so we're going to pop this in a preheated 350-degree oven for about 35 minutes until our eggs are set, and we'll have a French toast casserole. Now, if you're making this ahead of time, you'll need to cover it with some aluminum foil, put it in the refrigerator, and let it sit overnight. If you want to make it the same day, maybe you're pressed for time, it can sit for 30 minutes, and then you can put it in that 350-degree oven for 35 minutes until your eggs are nice and set. Here is first peek at our French toast casserole after we've taken it out of the oven. Now you need to remember, if your pecans start to get too brown, you can always cover them with foil about halfway through and then let it finish baking. So let's talk about some serving suggestions, because we want this Southern French toast casserole to be a success, not just in the kitchen, but all the way to the table. So you're gonna need to let your strawberry casserole sit for about 10 minutes just to make sure that everything is set before you dig into it. And I always like to hold back just a few strawberries, and we can sprinkle them across the top. And this is gonna give you just a little added color. There's not going to be any mistaking that this is a fresh strawberry dish. Now, I don't usually eat any syrup with my strawberry French toast casserole. That brown sugar pecan topping is enough for me, but I know you guys are going to want to see that syrup drizzle. So let's get a couple pieces of this French toast out of the skillet and show you what it looks like. I'm going to get a little bit of this berries, and a little bit more egg that's down on the bottom. We're gonna take a sliced berry that's been cut in half. Let's stick him on the plate just for a little extra color. All right, so this is a little maple syrup. You know, you're welcome to use whatever syrup that you love, but just look at how inviting and delicious that is. Now, who needs powdered sugar when you can have Southern style French toast that looks like this? You can serve it with bacon, you can serve it with a side of sausage, you can even serve it with those Creole sausage balls that we made earlier. And if you feel like you need a little extra flair, a little bit of lightly sweetened whipped topping on the side is always a good addition. Now, I know you and your family are going to find plenty of reasons to make this recipe. It's perfect for gathering your people around the table. So if you like these kinds of recipes, then don't forget to subscribe, not just to the YouTube channel, but to southerndiscourse.com. where I'm cooking up all the Southern food that you know and love. From the kitchen to the table, I've got you covered.